Okay. Should be good.
Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Sunandini and I'm an entrepreneur and have been associated with Inside IIM as a video producer since 2022. The agenda of this webinar is to create awareness about how it is to work at some of the top companies abroad. Today we are privileged to have Anant Yadav, who is currently working at one of the world's top companies, Amazon, since 2021. Joining us as a guest speaker. He's an IIM-A graduate and has quite a versatile set of experience. He has been around strategy throughout his experience, but has worked in various industries like FMCG, hospitality, automobile, and e-commerce. Apart from India, he has also got an opportunity to work in Japan, Singapore, and Dubai. He will enlighten us about his journey, struggles, and achievements, sharing a spotlight on the work culture, lifestyle, and transitions of working abroad. If you have any questions during the presentation, please comment on the live chat and we will address them during the Q&A. So Anand, let's begin. Maybe tell us something about your childhood, schooling, and what is it that brought you here?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Perfect. Yeah, childhood seems like so far away. Just a normal childhood. I come from a military background. Dad's in the army, so definitely we got a chance to live across India and like have multiple different experiences, just like any other military kid that you would come across. So being on the move was something which was very normal to us, and hence you see that in my in my career as well, that I've not stayed in one place geographically for like quite more than I think 2 or 3 years. Because that's something that comes natural to me. So, and I was a naughty kid for sure, not the most ideal student, but I was always respectful for the teachers, that's for sure. I was not in the bad books, but yeah, if you're thinking that I was like always on the podium or something, nah, that's, although my mom and dad definitely wished for it. But yeah, I did I did take studies pretty seriously, but at the same time, I was pretty much into outdoor activities as well. So trying to balance it out. So, but yeah, not like all into like books and books.
So how was your profile? Maybe something like your 10th grades, 12th grades, bachelor's.
Really, you want that?
Yes.
Okay, I think 10th. Who remembers? Like, as everyone says that like the grades are not important. I don't remember when was the last time I actually remember them. I think 10th was something. This is, I think, now I feel old. This is the time when 10th still had actual percentage system. Now I think it's a CGPA system. So
yes,
yeah, well, I think I did score 92 something, 92, 93% in 10th. Class 12th was, I think, somewhere 80s. Yeah, because I had different plans at that time. I was preparing for National Defense Academy. So yeah, my entire focus was over there. Although it's not an excuse for low scores, but but yeah, somewhere around 80s. Bachelor's when I did in undergrad, actually I was the college topper over there. So
okay. And you did bachelor's in psychology, sociology, right?
Yeah, psychology, sociology, double majors. So
okay. And how was your
yeah.
CAT percentile?
Somewhere around 98 something.
98%.
Yeah, somewhere around 9. Yeah, I wasn't 100% if that's what you're looking for. Yeah, somewhere around 98.
So like, how did you end up in army and civil service and then went on to study MBA and then now working abroad? How was that journey?
Yeah, so since I think my class 8 onwards, I was pretty much sure that what I wanted to do, that was like every kid's dream. Like I was like, I want to be a fighter pilot, and that's something that really excited me. And I think that was one thing where I was really serious about. And class 8, 9, 10th, 11th, people used to party and like do mischief. I was actually pretty much laser focused about it. So I did clear after class 12th, I did clear NDA exam. I joined NDA in 2011. I mean, if people are aware of how NDA works, so I'm 126 Oscar. That's the course of NDA. And I was over there under training for almost like 18 months, got hurt, unfortunately, had multiple surgeries, had to come out, had to do something. So I was like 19 and a half years old that time. So yeah, I really didn't know what to take. I knew one thing, that I didn't want to be an engineer. My mom really, really wished that I would be an engineer. That was one thing that I know what I didn't want to do. But apart from that, I didn't know what else to do. So someone said like, oh, try civil services. Why not? So I was like, yeah, why not? So therefore, hence I took Bachelor of Arts, sociology, psychology, public administration. So people who have done or like know about UPSC, they know this is like the UPSC 101 subjects. And I did prepare for it, but I think over the time I did realize that that was something which I wasn't aligned to do. So the good thing was I did take prelims in my second year, if I'm not mistaken, and yeah, and I realized that that's something that I didn't.
How did you
enjoy.
realize this? Oh, you didn't enjoy this.
Yeah, I did. I mean, the first of all, the preparation part is really really mind breaking, I would say, because the amount of syllabus is so vast. I mean, half of your time will just go to project plan, like how will you finish the syllabus? Forget about taking the exam, how will you finish the syllabus? But apart from that, the entire job scopes, like what exactly, so what conventionally what people actually wanted to do was like, it comes with power. That was one single, I mean, I'm overgeneralizing it, and of course this is just my opinion, but what I felt was like a lot of people that I interacted with, the entire thing was that, oh, it comes with power, there's power, there's power, there's power, and everyone was like, oh, it's IAS. But but when you look at that, there are like 21 allied services, there are 3 all India services, and the rest are allied services. So like, what about like, what if you don't get IAS? What if like IFS? So like overall, even like once you join, which cadre will you get? What exactly will you be doing? And that was something that I was like, I didn't feel like it. I was like, no, I don't want to be, because your role over there was subject to the government. If the government changes, and so the bureaucracy also changes hand in hand. So I was like, I won't have the stability, and I'll always be like pegged against something else. And luckily, I had like some family
come up from there.
Oh yeah, that was an interesting. MBA was, I think, it was more of a desperate attempt. So, so once I took the call that I don't want to prepare for civil services, and I gave that information to my parents, then they were like, "What will you do?" And I was like, "I don't know, but I don't want to prepare for civil services anymore." And then they were like, "No, that's unacceptable." Like typical Indian parents, right? Like, of course, they mean well for you. It's just sometimes they might be too harsh. And I like, I don't know. And I told them, you know what, I'll do MBA. So they just out of the blue, like, because I think in my third year, a lot of my like friends, they were saying that they wanted to go for an MBA. They wanted to work for 2 years, go for an MBA abroad or something like that. And at that time, it never excited me, but suddenly that word was there in my head. And I told my parents that I wanted to do MBA. And they were like, you got to be joking. And I was like, as a matter of fact, I'm not joking. You know, like when you're early 20s, you have that much ego and excitement that you want to be the rebel kind of kid in front of your parents, that I know what's right. And they said, okay, how much does it cost? I was like, I'll come back to you on this. I don't know how much does it cost. And I did I think the first Google search that I did was, what is the average salary of MBA in India? Second was, what are the best colleges for MBA? Third was, how do you get into those colleges? And fourth was, what is the average cost of, what is basically the financing for these MBA? And with that, I was like, okay, I told my parents that, like, you know what, it's 20-25 lakh rupees somewhere around. And there's like, who's going to sponsor it? I was like, you, I guess. So then they very bluntly said, like, okay, there's a condition. So since you're being so adamant about it, if you get into top 5, we'll sponsor it. Otherwise, you figure it out on your own.
Okay.
So my entire thing was like, what do you mean top 5? Top 5, we are looking at IIM Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, FMS, XLR, and that's it. I was like, come on, be. So I was actually negotiating with my parents. instead of top 5, at least be reasonable to top 10. So it took me like almost 1.5 week to convince them, like, you know what, like let's go for top 10. And after that, once they agreed, it was the main thing was they told me that you have this only shot. So if you crack it, you crack it. If you don't, then you're gonna go back to the civils thing, because you have already invested almost 1.5 years preparing for it. It will be like, in the corporate world, the term would be sunk cost. So yeah, that's how my MBA thing happened. And once I started the preparation, then there was no looking back. Like, I knew that this was my only shot. So some people do say like they didn't study. I remember when I was in campus, a lot of people said like, oh, we really didn't study for CAD and we still got like 99. And I was like, very proudly I used to say, you know what, I don't care. Like, I studied for the lack of, like, pardon my word, but like I studied my ass off to actually get here. Like, I really studied like it was the exam. So yeah, that's how MBA happened. And I was fortunate enough that I got all of them.
So, like, can you just explain us maybe IIM-A's interview process? Maybe how was it? Some hardships or something?
Oh, IIM-A interview. I think after my interview, I called up my parents. I said like, I won't make it. There is no chance that I will be able to make it. So, you know, like I think, do we still have that blog? What was that IIM blog where everyone used to like keep on, before the exam, they keep on updating, and everyone was like chit chatting. They were like discussing like, oh, someone gave you a toffee after the interview, that means like it went well, and someone didn't give you, like, oh, you're already rejected. Like, I don't remember what was. Anyhow, IIM-A interview was different, because based on what I had heard and talked to people, they said it's more holistic and less mathematical. And I think the convention is that Calcutta is supposed to be more mathematical, like more logical. They will give you some puzzles. So for IIM-A, I was, I think my center was in Delhi in IIFT's campus. And yeah, I think I was the last person to be interviewed that day. Yeah, I mean, things were not in my favor from the beginning, as per the tidbits given on that forum. And the moment I entered the room, it was definitely a stress interview for sure. The moment I entered the room was, I was not even allowed to sit. Before I could sit, I was asked a question. I was thrown a question at me, and the question was, how much maths do you know?
Okay. And what was your answer?
That was, my answer was like, may I sit?
Okay. So your answer to that was this. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, may I sit first? And they're like, yeah, sure. So there were two professors, good cop, classic good cop, bad cop. The other guy was like, oh yeah, please don't worry, welcome, sit. And then they were like, yeah, the other professor was definitely really in the mood to grill. And he was like, okay, can you please answer that question? I was like, yeah, sure. I was like, yeah, it's good enough. He's like, can you be more specific? Can you give your answer on a scale of 10? I would say 6 to 7. And he was like, no, I mean, can you be like absolute specific? Like, is it 6 or 7? I got like a little bit like cheesed off. I was like, you know what, 6.5. So he was like, so since I studied psychology, and back in psychology, we used to design questionnaires and interviews. So I knew exactly, so like what exactly is happening. So, but again, when you are in the hot seat, like whatever you know doesn't work out.
So what was exactly happening there?
I have no idea, because the way they were asking me the question was like, I mean, they had my CV resume in front of them, the entire profile. So they know that I did my batch, although I was a science student till my class 12, and even in academy, I was a computer science graduate. But for whatever reason, when I came out of it, I had to, and I was an Air Force cadet where maths and physics is a mandatory thing. So when I had to come out, I was an arts graduate, so I don't know what exactly they were looking for. And then for the next 15 minutes, I remember my default answer was like, sorry, I don't know, because the questions went from, so he's like, oh, you don't know mathematics. I was like, but I just said, like, very, very politely and respectfully. I mean, I don't exactly, I'm not able to recall the exact word to word, but like this was the overall tone. Like I was like, I mean, what do you want me to do? Then he was like, oh, you studied maths for like 2 years, like, what do you remember? So I knew exactly the moment I'm going to pick any subtopic, they're going to go deeper into it. So good. I mean, luckily I had researched on whatever the topics or what were the subjects that are taught in IIMs for MBA, for basically the 2-year PGP course. And that was just out of my curiosity. That was not because I was going for an interview, just out of curiosity, like what exactly I'll be studying. So I knew exactly these topics are very probability and stats heavy. And I knew exactly, and that was not my strongest suit ever. So I knew, I was like, I know exactly where is this going. And I was like, I am not trying to fall in that. And I tried my everything to a point where the professor got like cheesed off. So he asked me like, what topic do you remember? I was like, trigonometry. I mean, they wanted to play. I was also playing. I was like, okay, trigonometry. And he's like, come on, like, what else do you remember? Like, you studied maths for 2 years. I was like, yeah, inverse trigonometry as well. And the other professor laughed. This professor was like a little bit, I think, offended. But then I was like, you know what? Like, I have, like, if they have already made up their mind to like not take me, I can't change it. So rather just like try to save your dignity or at least have a memorable experience. So that was my entire mindset. And of course, it wasn't a nice feeling because I was feeling like really like cornered in that case. And then he was like, oh, what else do you remember? Then I knew like, I can't escape this. I was like, the moment I could say anything, I was like, oh, you mean algebra? And I was like, okay, let's go with algebra. Let's see. And then he asked me, derive and define binomial theorem. And I was like, derivation and definition. All I know is the expansion. It doesn't even like coincide somewhere. So I told him, I was like, I just know the expansion of a binomial theorem. I don't even know why I remembered it, but for some reason I knew it. And he was like, okay, you don't know. And I was like, okay. And then the other professor was like, do you know like linear algebra and the geometry and stuff? I was like, yeah, a little bit, like based on logic, yes. So they just took a napkin and they drew an XY axis and just like randomly plotted some dots and asked me that define the slopes. And I was like, okay. So very confidently, I took the napkin and I took my pen out and I was like, yeah, but then when I'm looking at the napkin, I'm just seeing these random dots and I'm like, what exactly is a slope? And at that time, my brain is going like all blackout. I'm like, I was like, you know what? When you see random dots, what do you do? Just like a kid, you start joining the dots. So I started joining the dots. Then I could see there was a shape to it. And then the other professor jumped in and he was like, okay, consider us as like people who have no idea about mathematics. Now explain to us what you will be doing. So that was the easy thing. And then slope definition, y is equals to mx plus c. I don't know how I remembered that, but subconsciously, yes. That's a good thing that I was a serious student. So there was something subconsciously in my head working. And towards the end of it, the other professor was like, your mathematics is so weak. How will you even if we, let's say, hypothetically, and he emphasized with double quotes that hypothetically, if we let you in, you won't survive. And that was the time when I had actually given up. I was like, you know what, like I think I had already taken like 6 interviews before that. And I was like, this is not right. Like, I'm done. Even if you give me, I don't want to be there. So I was like, and then I think it was a very philosophical answer to it. I told him, I was like, based on my understanding, PGP course in IIM Ahmedabad is supposed to be a generalist course. So the way the curriculum has been created should be in such a manner that it caters to from various backgrounds. Unfortunately, based on my research and the data provided on the campus's website, the last 5 years average intake is 80% of the batch is engineer, and the rest 20%, and the remaining 20%, out of that, 80% of the batches chartered accountants or commerce or something or that. And then there is this minority section, which is probably 1, 2, 3, like probably a doctor or a dentist or someone. So I don't know what's happening over here, but if the logic is right and if MBA is supposed to be a generalist degree, then I'm sure I'll be able to survive the curriculum. And then he was like, but you still basics of logic and basics of mathematics. And that was the time. And I was like, you know what, I'll probably walk out. I told him that there's a quote which says that if you try to judge a fish by its capability to climb a tree, it's going to remain a failure throughout its life. So let's talk now. And then the other prof was like, he smiled, he smirked, and then he was like, okay, Anant, welcome. Like, it's okay. How are you doing? Let's get to know something about you. And then they went into my area of expertise. They wanted to know something in the aviation sector. I think there was a news about some aircraft investigation in China. So they were asking about aircrafts. Then we actually went really detailed into aircrafts. Like, I think I gave like a 3 or 4 minute monologue about it. Like, we went into like the technical core structural differences of aircrafts, fighter aircraft, single propeller, turboprop, I mean, all of that. And the other professor was like, okay, from now onwards, we are not talking about aircrafts, military, or any other defense related subjects. And yeah, after that, they just asked me that they'll be like, okay, we'll give you an honest opinion. You might have to take additional mathematics stuff. I was like, yeah, by all means, I'm not saying that I know it. I'm coming there to learn. So tell me what I need to do. But yeah, that was the end of it. And I left. And of course, they didn't offer me a toffee or something to eat. And I left and I called my parents. I was like, there's no chance that Ahmedabad is gonna take place.
So since you said you used to structure questions in psychology and all, why do you think they chose you after this?
I have no idea.
You still don't have any idea?
I did meet the professor in campus. He was, and as I said, like, he was this probability and stats professor. And we were crossing each other in the corridor, and I wished him. I was like, good afternoon, prof. And he was like, the Air Force guy. And I was like, yeah. So then he was like, oh, so you finally made it. I was like, yeah, somehow, but you made sure that I was not able to. And then he just laughed and he's like, yeah, enjoy the journey. So I think what they are really looking for, I mean, when we used to design the questionnaires or like even the interviews, it's really on the organizational interest, like what exactly the organization is looking for. Like, for example, defense is looking for trainability, right? So like they don't want someone who has like a very like Einstein level mindset, because that's something which is not required for the organization. I think Ahmedabad or the MBA guy, they would be looking, of course, for the trainability side. At the same time, I feel like, how do you think on the feet? Because I think that's what they wanna prep you for. Because once you move out of the campus classroom or the campus corridor, life is not structured in like first trimester, second trimester, third trimester way, right? You don't know what's gonna happen. So I think that's what, I mean, again, I'm just thinking out loud, but I think that's what worked out. And of course, interviews are not the test of your knowledge. That if whosoever is listening, that is for sure. Because for the test of your knowledge, they've already screened you based on that CAT or whatever writing assignments that they do. It's more test of your personality. Like, what they want to see, that like whatever profile that you're projecting in front of them in the form of resume or something, are you the same person? And then there are different ways of getting to know that. Like, a lot of companies make you do the psychometric analysis and all of that thing. It's just to put the pieces together, that what you are on paper, are you the same person? So I think so.
So you had an exchange program also in IIM-A, right?
Yes.
And where was it and how was it? Can you just explain the experience?
Exchange, I chose exchange to Japan. It was a very interesting decision. I think the majority of the people would know that, like, a lot of people, majority of the people that want to go on exchange, they want to go to Europe. I did not want to go to Europe. I was like, because the thing was, it was supposed to be, and before my exchange, I had never been abroad in my entire life. So that was something. So first of all, exchange is completely voluntary, so it's not mandatory. You can definitely opt out of it. So there's no problem with it. So I chose to go for it because I didn't know that whether I'll get another opportunity or not to go outside India. So I took that opportunity. And Europe, I didn't want to go because a lot of people, I think in my batch, close to 70% of the batch went on exchange. And everyone was going to Europe. So everyone was like making their groups like, oh, we're gonna rent an Airbnb in this city, we're gonna go this will be travel itinerary there. And I told them, I was like, man, like we traveled together in India also. Now I'm going to travel with you guys in Europe also. Like, so I don't want that. I want to do something solo. So Europe was not an option. US, I for some reason I was not keen. I was really keen on Latin America and Japan and Russia. The reason was that under normal scenarios, I have never heard anyone traveling to Latin America. Like US, you would go on business trips. Europe, you might go for work or something, or even for your own the Euro trip. Southeast Asia, you can always go. So that was something, that was my rationale. So Latin America didn't work out because of some exam date clash. Then it was left between Russia and Japan. Russia will be super cold during September. So I dropped that. I was like, okay, Japan is left. And for seriously, Japan, I'd never considered as a tourist destination. But after visiting Japan, I have been telling everyone, if you have the means and the time, please do visit Japan. Like, it's so exchange was amazing. My campus was, I think that's truly the definition of exchange. We were a batch of 400 students in that campus, and there were 55 different nationalities in that campus. So that is something which was mind-boggling. You learn so much when you are in the presence of different nationalities.
So studying wise, how was it? How was Japan different from IIM-A?
Oh, okay. IIM-A was more analytical. Like there's a very I would say in campus in Ahmedabad, the competition is way too high. Like and our scoring is also relative grading. I mean, I think a lot of people would know. So we have a relative grading in campus. So and everyone is like running. So like trying to score as much as possible by hook or by crook, whatever. Japan was more holistic. The professors over there will take a lot of effort to make sure that you have gotten the concept. And at the same time, the students over there are also like, they are not worried about grades that much. They're really taking a lot of pain and effort to make sure that, because they are paying for it, so that they understand the subject. Yeah. So that was the main difference. But they're very analytical. Japanese students were insanely analytical. And attention to detail was at like a different level altogether.
Okay. So was this exchange program something which led you to think maybe working abroad is something that you can imagine?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like when I went to Japan, I think I fell in love with the country. I was like, I really want to live here for some time at least. And I tried my level best to get something in Japan. Unfortunately, in Japan, language barrier is quite high. So unless you know Japanese to a proficient level, it's really tough. And the work culture over there is it's bit, I mean, there's a stereotype about it, but I think it's a bit toxic. Like there's a lot of hierarchy and all of that. But now these days it's changing because of like all the new startups and all the MNCs are coming in. So I think Japan trip was definitely one of the reason that I decided, or at least I wished that I would love to explore outside India.
So your profile says like you have been in strategy and operations throughout from what I've seen. So can you just explain maybe the start of your work experience journey from maybe your summer internship in ITC, and then it went on to a startup, and then Singapore, then Dubai now. So can you just start the journey?
I think I interned with ITC. It was like a hardcore sales internship. I was taking care of helping them launch their new juice. So my manager actually made me do the sales trips in Mumbai. So my location was Mumbai, Pune, and Goa. And in Mumbai, like I used to carry juice packets in my bag, and I used to go to Dharavi, that slum area, to do the beat calls to sell juices. And that was like a great learning that like selling is an art. Like it's not easy. Like therefore, like I have like huge respect for the revenue teams. Like they do insane job. But during the internship, it was the end of the internship, like my manager and we had like a really nice talk, like informal discussion, and he asked me like what I aspire to be. Like he's gonna refer me, but the point is like, what do I want? And I told him that I would love to have some international experience at one point. And he was like, yeah, then ITC is the wrong company for you. I mean, it's primarily India. And he's like, there is no chance that from work standpoint you would go. So he's like, think hard about it. So yeah, and I did realize that sales was something that I did enjoy in that time, but it wasn't something that excited me, because I knew that since I come, like I was a fresher, so I didn't know what. So it was my first corporate experience, so I didn't know what else to do. So therefore, when the final placements happened, I was actually talking to a lot of seniors, a lot of professors, and I told them that like I made a good reputation with, had a good relationship with my professors. So I actually went to them and told them that I am clueless. I don't know what to do. Of course, like there was like consulting and investment banking and all of that. Like, I knew that finance, I didn't want to do finance. And then one of the professors actually recommended me that he was like, actually go for a startup. But then I told them like, but like startup, what if I don't get enough money? Because I know 6 months down the line, my EMIs are going to start kicking in, and I don't know whether it's, but professor was more like, he's like, don't worry about the money. It's a byproduct of what you know, what skill sets that you bring to the table. So it's like, don't worry about it. More is like, if you don't know which area you want to go, startup is the best place to actually explore, because you will be given a lot of responsibility. Of course, it won't be as structured as any other big company, but you will get to do everything. And then you can make an informed decision that, okay, which vertical you actually enjoy the most, depending upon the projects. Like, yeah, that's a very prudent advice. Yeah, I took a startup. I don't even remember the name now.
I think it was Yumlane, I think.
Yeah. I don't know if they're still working or no. So, but when I joined I interviewed with them in February or March, joined them in May.
This was which year?
2017. This is right after that thing, demonetization. Yeah,
okay.
that was
demonetization, right? Yes.
Yeah, it was tough placement time. And yeah, I worked there for like 4 months. There was some cash crunch. They were having some trouble raising funds, but that was the time, since I was working directly with the founder over there. Like, I mean, it was a very lean team, like 18-20 people. So we were doing almost everything. I've even done the payrolling. So like it was almost end to end. And that was something. So I realized that I kind of enjoyed this overall thing, that where I was not tagged to one that like, oh, I'm handling HR, like, oh, I'm handling a finance. No, I was like managing everything. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. But since that startup went kind of bust, I had to do something. And that was the time when I intentionally took 3 to 4 months off to figure out where I want to go next. Because in my head, I was very clear that wherever I go next, I would want to stay. Like I want to be more like, one, financially stable. Second, I want to stay there and enjoy the work. So aviation came very logically. I was like, okay, I want to try for aviation. I tried a lot of times for that, but unfortunately in India, aviation is only the back end of the manufacturing, which is very engineering heavy. All the corporate roles are, I think, concentrated in either Europe or in US. So that couldn't happen. But I did get a chance to talk to the Airbus CTO, and he recommended me that, like, if you're really passionate about it, then why don't you consider automotive sector? Because conceptually, it's same. So the move between automotive to aviation is very fluid. So that was a very nice advice. And again, I went to go, the first search was, what are the best automotive companies in India? The first name came was Daimler. And that was the time when I actually got to know that Mercedes was a brand of Daimler. Daimler is the parent company. And yeah, so I reached out.
That I didn't know this before you just told me. I didn't have any clue about this, but okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I sent like a cold email, because unfortunately from our campus, aviation, automotive, we didn't have anyone. Like I couldn't reach out to any of the alums, or if there were someone, they were like way too senior. Like they were like 20-30-year-old batch. So we can't even like reach out to them directly. Just cold email. CEO responded back. He was a fine gentleman, German guy. We interviewed. The position was in Chennai, not my favorite city, but yeah, I was like, let's give it a shot. Went there. the opportunity, the role was fluid. They didn't have a proper job description because I had just randomly reached out to them, and then they realized that it'll be best that if I work closely with the CEO in the strategic projects office. And that's how, I think that's how the strategy thing happened. And then I started enjoying it because there's a lot of analysis, there's a lot of bird's eye view, there's a lot of stakeholder management.
Can you just
Because
explain what the strategy and operations exactly, the role is basically?
yeah, so it's how do I explain? It's behind the curtain role. So what happens in like the bigger organizations, it's, or in even in startups, like nowadays there's a lot of these founders office, CEO's office kind of roles coming up. So what happens is, like, there are different verticals, like sales is there, marketing is there, HR is there, finance, and every vertical is working in their own silo to achieve something, whatever is based on their annual business plan or something. Now, whosoever is the CEO would want to do something, or like he has some projects in his head which requires multi-vertical or multi-team effort. And of course, CEO won't be going down to like his like he won't be getting his hands dirty because he doesn't have time. So that's where the CEO's office actually come. It's more like a project management kind of thing, where they actually prepare, basically they align all the verticals together and help them achieve that particular project, and they see it end to end. But whenever that project is a success, the CEO's office doesn't get to take the credit. The credit goes to the respective teams who worked on whatever pieces that they were given to. So you're always behind the curtain, but you're kind of making things work, like something similar to chief of staff kind of positions in the like in the politics, if someone follows it. So that's something similar. You work very closely.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, continue, please.
You work very closely with the CEO. So that's one side of it. Apart from that, there's a lot of analysis. There's a lot of future projections. You help the CEO with their monthly planning, monthly meetings with the board, if it's a board thing, whatever the structure, additional requirements. Some, if you're lucky and if you're in a very critical position, you might be working on an M&A kind of role. Of course, you won't be leading it, but you will be supporting the teams who are running those projects. So it's a high pressure job, because although it might feel that, oh, CEOs don't do much, oh boy, their life is like really, really jam packed. Like, I don't know. So therefore you are actually working according to their convenience.
And okay, so in strategy, after this experience, where did you go after this? In Singapore, I guess.
Yeah. So one thing I did realize was, although it was an amazing experience, automotive sector moves very slowly.
Oh, I thought you would say fast and all. Okay.
No, way too slow because of the government regulations. You can't just change something in a vehicle. There is a proper approval process. There is legality. There's a lot of stuff, and that's when my idea was like, because I was always aiming for aviation, but then I realized that aviation sector would move even more slowly. So I remember with Daimler, there was a marketing comms project where it took me almost 5 months just to get approval for a tag line which just had a Mercedes logo, and it was supposed to be circulated internally, not even it wasn't even a TV commercial, because there's so much structure, there's so much brand value associated with the Mercedes star. So yeah, I did realize that it was something that, and of course my CEO also moved to Germany. So I was like, yeah, I was not like, all it was very interesting work, but it was just like a bit too slow for me. And I felt that this is my age to actually learn as much as possible, versus like, because Mercedes would have been like, I could have stayed there for like 10, 15, 20 years and then retired probably. It's like synonymous to what Tata is. So I was like, that's something that didn't resonate with me. So yeah, the next opportunity was Singapore. Again, I was just looking for opportunities. Southeast Asia seemed convenient.
I just want to get back to one thing. So you were saying you spoke to the Airbus CTO and then you thought about aviation and all. So how did you connect with the CTO?
Oh, friends of friends of friends of friends. Be shameless in asking for connections.
Okay.
It's okay. It's okay. I mean, you have to, like, once you're passionate about something, you have to go all the way in. Like, doesn't matter who gives you the connection. It's okay. Just be respectful, of course. Be nice. Don't be a rude person. I mean, if you have friends and if they're making the connection, I think a beer won't hurt, or a cup of coffee won't hurt. So yeah.
Got it, got it. Okay, let's get back to the Singapore experience. The name was Circles.life, right?
Yeah. So they were a digital telco when I joined. Like, again, I just reached out on LinkedIn to the founders saying that, hey, want to chat, something like that. A very casual email, casual thing. And the guy responded back, and he was like, because I had applied for one specific position, something to do with the Indonesia launch, and because I had some experience from Mercedes for the Indonesian market, although irrelevant from automotive to the startup, but it was still that I knew how the operations worked. The guy said, oh, you might not be there for the you might not be the right fit for that particular position, but we might have something for you. Let's chat. I was like, yeah, let's chat. And then one thing led to the another. Things worked out. It was interesting. Offer wasn't that great, but then I was like, it's a very promising startup. Equity ESOP option was pretty good. And Singapore, of course, it was Singapore. So I was like, why not? It's closer to India. It's one of the finest cities. Let's give it a shot. Oh boy, and that experience, I think that has been the most intense experience. I don't know. I was there for like almost 2.5 years. I worked from when I joined the company, we were 100 people. At our peak, we were 600 people. We normalized to some. Then we had a mass layoff. We were at like 350, 400 people. We were a venture capital company. Then we moved to private equity. We raised funds. We launched 2 countries. We launched multiple products. We changed the entire strategy. We merged a vertical. We created a vertical. I don't know. I'm just like that.
What was your role specifically, if we had to?
Because all of this was being thrown by the founders, and I was the founder's office. So there were 3 co-founders, and every co-founder had one associate each. And then there were associates and there were analysts. So we were a team of 6 people. So whatever founder was like thinking, we were supposed to make it happen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So how do you make it happen? Because of course nobody reports to us. So we were supposed to make sure that it was like a project planning, like all the things were being tracked correctly. All the metrics, the business metrics are being tracked correctly. We were supposed to set up the weekly business reviews, the quarterly business reviews, the monthly business reviews. And we were the people who were actually helping the team members to run the reports, prepare the reports, beautify the reports, and then present it on the Monday meetings. And that was like very interesting because they don't. Vertical presidents, they would not listen to some random 20-year-old kid coming and telling them, they're like, hey man, please give me your, I don't know, these metrics because you have a meeting tomorrow. And he'll be like, yeah, I know there is a meeting tomorrow and I'll do it, so don't stop bothering me. But then your boss, who is the founder, who is like really grilling you, he's like, come on, I told you that I want all my meetings in like one structured format, and you can't even get that done. So you're being like grinded in between. That was the role. So you were like project managing a lot of stuff, and then there were like some smaller projects that they were given to us directly. So like in one of my project was data consolidation. So we were doing a migration plan. So there was a lot of untapped data, I would say. Like that data was not sitting in any of the data lakes, and yeah, so I had to get one additional analyst from the data team to sit with him. It was a lot of it was a donkey exercise basically, but then in the end it was really, really beneficial because we were able to create an automated dashboard out of it, which kind of helped all the vertical presidents to, so now their reports were being generated in like 5 minutes. All they had to do every month was to click update. Their presentations were updated. All they had to do was to just give their comments that if they're seeing any variation or deviation.
Just to understand it better, like if was there a strategy that was made by you, like the idea was formed by you, or only the execution was by you and the idea was given by someone else? Maybe the strategy for the long term, maybe you have to join
So
some.
yeah,
Yeah.
so usually how it happens is like there's a brainstorming session. So not a lot of people have access to it. So usually what will happen is like there will be some idea. It can be your idea, because since you're working so closely with either with the CEO or with the co-founders, that you are actually not like setting up meetings. So your interaction with them is not like a weekly one-on-one or like a monthly one-on-one. So you're actually constantly chatting with them, and you have complete visibility on how the business is performing. So based on that, you might have some recommendation. So the strategies can be broken down into like two parts. They can be short term and the long term. In startup, short term would be something 3 months, and long term would be something a year long. In bigger organizations like Daimler or like Amazon's, short term would be like 1 year end to end, and long term would be we're looking at 5 to 6 years kind of conceptualization to actual execution. So I mean, I can't like the ones that I really worked on were like really confidential ones. I can't, unfortunately, I can't
It's
go
okay.
into the further details of it. But I would say there was something like entire org restructuring in terms of how do you make your company more lean. So something on that side that was like that came from one of our analysis during the monthly business reviews, that where we found some I would say inefficiencies. So there was a huge resistance, of course, because nobody wants their budget to be cut. But then, therefore, it was given. So all the dirty projects where nobody wants to get their hands on is usually given to the strategy team or the CEO's office or the founder's office. So yeah, that. So therefore, the founder asked us, like, you know what? Give me more detail. Go deep, dive deep into it. Show me what you've got, and then we'll see what we'll do. So yeah.
So all this, does it need more analytics mindset, or is it something else, some skill that you need for all these things?
I would say that like it's definitely number heavy, of course, because usually how will a CEO or anyone who is in that position will make a decision? They will look into numbers. Who prepares
Hmm.
the numbers? The data team or the analytics team or something. So I'm 100% sure that there will be always be analysts and everyone to support you. But if you know those skills, if you have like basic finance understanding, if you're good with numbers, if you know like how it works, like what the metrics are, how can you create metrics, how do you create dashboards, if you're really good with Excel and all, and you're really good with dashboards, your life becomes easy. Otherwise you will always have to depend or bank on someone from your team to that, like, please give me this report, that report. And when you're working in these positions, like there is no time. Like, so it's like sometimes the turnaround is like in within hours they would need, because they are sitting in a board meeting and suddenly something happened and like they want this particular, so you receive a WhatsApp or a whatever the internal tool is, and you're like, hey, I need this, what is the thing? So
Okay. So after this, you went to Amazon Dubai, right? So how
yeah.
did the transition happen from Singapore to Dubai now?
Yeah, so I was bored in Singapore because of COVID. There
Which
was
year was this?
insane. I
2020,
just moved 2021.
2021. Okay.
Yeah, so I was like really like I had it'd been almost like 2.5, 3 years since I had been home. The restrictions were so high in Singapore, and like I was just like not feeling it, and I wanted to get out of it. At the same time, I think I was done with startups. I was like, I think it's too much. I mean, yeah, I felt like I was done with startup. I wanted more structured thing, because I think I hadn't taken any leave in 2 years. Like my leave was like 4 days at max. Nothing beyond 4 days, 4 or 5 days. So I felt like I needed more time with my family and stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm going to move to a bigger firm. I was trying a lot for Singapore as well. But during the COVID time, every company was on a hiring freeze or something. And then this opportunity came with Amazon. Amazon was like the classic one. I think it's the strangest thing, because earlier in my days, I had applied in Amazon a lot. I had asked my friends to put in a referral, everything. Nothing happened, and I had given up hope. So when I was looking for something in Dubai, I just applied online on their that career page. That's it, and that's how I got the call, and then one thing moved to the other thing, and moved to the other thing. Yeah.
So what were they looking for? How was the interview process?
Amazon, I think Amazon is a very classic interview process. They hire for their, so Amazon has like 13 leadership principles. They hire for those. So Amazon is very clear on that. I mean, I think there is enough literature online. You just need to search like Amazon hiring process online and you will get to know, like, it is exact. After joining, I think I've already taken 3 or 4 more interviews for my team and all. Like, you have to go through a lot of training to become an interviewer, and they're very particular about that training. They make you like they make you do some small test or something, test whether you have understood and everything, and then, so it's a very peculiar way of doing it. So yeah, I think like whatever is there online, it's absolutely true. Like, I can't share more, or I can't share anything inside or something. It is absolutely true.
Okay. And how come Dubai only? Were there any other options, or you particularly focused?
No, I was actually looking for Dubai because it was closer to home as well, and at the same time there were like uh, some news, and I had like some friend over here who talked about it, and I was really not, but I was really wanted to get out of Singapore, so it just, I had applied for a couple of positions in London as well. That worked out, but later on, but Dubai was the first thing that worked out. So, and it was Amazon. London was like, it wasn't Amazon, but it was some other company. I think it was Skyscanner. Yeah.
Okay.
So
And
it made
is
more
the
sense.
okay, okay. And the role right now, is it same as the previous ones, strategy and operations?
No, this is a bit different. So I'm technically a project manager, but I sit under the strategy operations vertical. So I'm right now working in, so it's going to be a project to project basis. And right now I'm working with the, on a project which is under the HR vertical to help them digitize their entire team. So yeah, so I don't know how long will it take, but like till that time the project is done, I'm with them, and then I'll probably move to some other project or some other team.
So being a project manager, like right now it's HR. So do you need to know some things, or do you need to do dig deeper research more on what is happening? And you can do it like even if you're not from that background, maybe can you learn it or know about all this within maybe 1 2 months and go ahead with the, leading the whole
Of,
thing? Is it?
of course, like of course you can do it. It's just like you would need the formal training once the complexity of the project certain certain level. So if these are like smaller projects, you can still learn, but of course, like having a logical and analytical bent of mind really helps, because you're not executing anything, you're managing a lot of stuff. So you need to make sure that everything is being tracked, and usually the stakeholders that you'll be working on, for them the project would be one of the 1,000 tasks that they're doing on a daily basis. So
Hmm.
how do you make sure that as a project manager, how do you make sure that your project doesn't get derailed because someone didn't work? So you need to make sure. And of course, there is a lot of analysis required, because when you go into project viability section, like how do you convince someone that your project should be given priority, or your project should actually be seen live in the end? So you have to do a lot of financial calculations as well, like to make sure that like whatever the amount of resources, the effort, the money that is being spent is actually worth it towards the end. So
Hmm.
yeah.
So, if there is some skill that you're looking for in your employees, what will that skill be?
Oh, um I don't know exactly, to be honest. One is definitely the attitude. Like, you just need one bad seed to corrupt the entire uh, how do I say, corrupt the entire aura of the team. But at the same time, like, nobody is like a qualified person to do that. Like, I don't know how will I. And that's what my biggest debate with my manager was, and my skip level manager was, like, when they asked me to like take interviews, and I told them, like, I did this training for 2 months. Now I'm supposed to take interviews, and now I'm supposed to give my answer, whether that person is worthy or not. Like, how does that work out? But at the same time, I would say that I would, instead of employee, I would say that I would definitely look for a couple of traits in someone that I'm willing to work with. That is, one is, are they pleasant people? Like, do they have a pleasant personality? That can I stay with them late nights on and on when we are all running like low on sleep? Because that will happen. Can I, like, Second, are they dependable? Like, I'm not saying that I'm going to be micromanaging any one of them, but like, are they dependable when something is given? Of course, like sometimes people do slack for whatever reason. Something is happening at home, you just don't feel like working, that's fine. But when the time comes to deliver, are you able to deliver? And based on my personal experience, I think this is a very, very personal opinion, but I would want someone like who is good with numbers, because it just makes my life easy. Otherwise I have to do the analysis all by my own. But again, it's very job specific.
Hmm. And how was the role, like your strategy and operations in Singapore or in, not in ITC, but before that also? How was that different than the project managers? Because here you're getting specific projects. Is that the thing?
Yeah, so over here it's not exactly so. Since I'm part of the strategy ops team, so I work with them in terms of the brainstorming as well. So I have to understand the needs of the team in that particular region, and then come up with, either through them or through my own analysis, I need to come up with like what can be the projects which are going to enhance their productivity, or like optimize their processes. So I think it's somewhat similar, but it's just like it's more structured.
Okay. And okay, fine. But now, if I want to explain the audience how different it is to work in India versus Singapore versus Dubai, in terms of, maybe let's start with work culture. How is it different in these three countries?
Oh, it's very different. India is India. I think I don't have to explain anyone how it's like to work in India. Singapore, again, it's a very multicultural, high skill set market, very high skill set market. People are insanely, Southeast Asians in general, they are insanely hardworking people. So you can expect yourself to be put on a very, like, you will be tested for sure. So yeah, in Dubai, Middle East works bit differently. There are different, a lot of nationalities over here, depending upon what kind of nationalities you're interacting with. No generalization whatsoever, but again, uh, Middle East is, it's still a nascent market. It's not as advanced in terms of business operations as Singapore. So it's still a nascent market. So the kind of projects that you would work on is very different versus what you would work in US, or work in Singapore, or work in India. Like in terms of the advancement of projects, I think India has the most complex and technologically advanced projects running as of now in the entire world, because of the sheer amount of volume that India can generate in terms of population. Like case in point would be the UPI thing. Like if anyone has worked on the UPI integration with any of the payment gateways, like that is insane. Like the amount of complexity that requires is insane.
Okay. And like the work culture, as in work timings and all, is it a 9 to 5 job, or it's like whenever
It's
your boss is calling?
it's it's your team that defines it. I know
Ah,
it's a very vague answer, but it's your team that defines your entire thing.
and you are one of the project managers, right? You are leading one team, right? Right now.
I have a dotted reporting, not a direct one. I have a dotted reporting, not a direct one. So I have shared resources under me, but not the
Okay.
direct.
Okay. Okay. So like, how is the culture in your team specifically right now?
Oh, my team is like, I take it very, very lightly. As like, you need to be mentally happy to be able to work with me.
Okay. And what about the finances in India compared to Singapore people compared to Dubai? What is the financial status like in work sense?
What do you mean?
So maybe the salary that you're getting versus the living expense or any other expense. So as per that ROI basis, so is India better, Singapore better, or Dubai better in that terms?
See, if you're talking purely finance, right, then India is definitely on the higher side, because your operating expenses go low, right? Like let's say hypothetically, if you're earning 1 lakh a month, what's your rent gonna be? Depending on the city, your rent is somewhere around 15-20,000. That's
Hmm.
20% of your salary. Other operating expenses, your groceries and everything is going to be cheaper, right?
Hmm.
And then you don't have to worry about your flight tickets to here and there.
Hmm.
Singapore is definitely one of the most expensive cities in the world. uh, how do I think you can save a lot, I mean, you can save equally, like depending upon what kind of lifestyle you want to pursue. But I would say living abroad comes with its own set of challenges, of course. Financially, yeah, I mean, you won't have the luxuries like India for sure. Like you would be really pushing it if you're getting a maid, someone to clean your house, to make your bed, and all of that stuff like that. That doesn't work. At least in Singapore, you can't afford that. At least at a mid junior level, no. So the good thing is like I have been cooking for quite some time. I never had that thing. I actually enjoy cleaning, so I don't have to worry about all of those things. So food might be an issue, yeah, because if you're very sticking to just the Indian food, your expenses might go high because it's not the staple diet for that country. So you might be spending a bit more on the food. But again, overall, I think it's more or less the same. The only thing is if your end term expenses are in INR, right? So you might have that perception that you're saving more, you're earning a lot because you're sending back home dollars if you're sending, right? If you're calculating everything in INR, then it just gives that perception. But if you're thinking from a US dollar standpoint, then you're actually better off outside than in India, because one lakh rupees doesn't mean much in US dollars. So from that, so it depends upon what your end goal is. That's how your finances will actually start shaping up.
And what about the colleagues in India versus Singapore versus Dubai?
I mean, they are same everywhere. I mean, I personally like hanging out with a lot of multicultural people, multinational people. So that, because it pushes you to think harder, right? When you're with the same group in India, for example, everyone, see, it's a very normal human tendency to seek comfort in your own comfort zone. So whenever you would see, like whenever you go travel abroad, you would love to travel in groups. Your groups are also some people which are either from your college or your undergrad, or like some people who think similar to you. I was not that kind. I was always like, okay, I want something, like some diversity in it. So it's different. You need to be very, in India, we do make, that's one thing that I have seen, again, not generalizing, but the one thing that I've seen is like in India, we do make jokes about some very sensitive topics without understanding the severity of the situation, which is very fine. Like you're not offending anyone, but those same habits might land you up in trouble abroad, because you need to be a bit conscious, bit considerate about someone else's background, and that's where your own effort takes into that's where your own effort comes into picture, where it should be like, are you making an effort to know someone? Because once you make effort, then people are people all across the world. Once you make effort, the effort is usually reciprocated, and then you make friends.
Can we dig in a bit about the expense in Dubai, maybe? Like in percentage terms, maybe what is the living expense, rent?
I mean, it's a range. You can easily, I mean, you can ease your, I mean, your biggest expense is going to be your rental in any place in the world. So it's going to be rental. It's somewhere around, like, I think 30% of your salary should be allocated for rental. Then you should be expecting another 10-15% for your OPEX, something like electricity, your mobile bills, cabs here and there, and yeah, and then keep 15% additional for your own leisure activities, like eating out, drinking, or whatever you fancy. And I think like that's what, like 40% can easily be saved. I mean, that's your personal finance. That's your personal finance discipline. Like if you have a very disciplined spending habit, you can easily save. Like that's, if you let loose, I mean, sky is the limit then.
And what do you do for leisure, maybe socially, in Singapore and Dubai? Is it the same thing or is it different?
Yeah, it's the same thing. Let's not go there.
Okay.
No, it's just like it's a cosmopolitan. It's like what you would do in Mumbai or Bangalore. Like weekends, you would go out partying, you go out drinking. There's not much. Like I like to run, so I usually sign up for like marathons, half marathons. So yeah, weekends would be spent that, lunches, dinners, beaches. Yeah, that's it. And that was nothing different from what I would have been doing in India, like something similar. Yeah, all about friends getting to get-togethers. Yeah, banter sessions at someone's place in pajamas. Everyone is like cribbing about their job, about their manager, those kind of stuff.
Okay. And after all these experiences, do you think you have the biggest lesson maybe you learned from something, maybe some regrets you have and you learned a lesson from that? Can you say give us an example of any of those?
Regrets, no. Learning, yes. I think I should have learned this sooner. Subconsciously in India, IIM does corrupt you in one way, because you're carrying a brand which is glorified. In some cases, it's over glorified, and it, even if you don't want it, it sometimes gets to your head, and that's something which actually hinders everyone's growth. That's what I felt.
Okay. Can
Like
you give us an
humility.
example?
I mean, example, I don't have anything in specific, but like back in India, like as I would say, once you graduate, right, like you feel like, oh, you're gonna conquer the world and this and that. Of course, like that feeling is nice, but then you start, you don't see people eye to eye. You subconsciously judge people. Like, oh, you're from that college, yeah, okay, big deal, right? But when you go abroad, like when you're living abroad, it's a beautiful equalizer. Everyone is an expat. Everyone is probably doing the same thing. You might be from Harvard or Stanford or whatever. Because I remember in Singapore, like my colleagues were like ex-Harvard, Wharton, Berkeley and all. And they hadn't even heard of IIM-A. So yeah, exactly. So it's a very nice equalizer. So, because, and then after one point you start realizing that it's about like how you are as a person. Your degrees are just something that, yes, you were lucky, you were hardworking enough, you were smart enough that you got the opportunity and you chanced upon it. But that doesn't mean the people who don't have it are anyway less. Like I have so many friends who are probably college dropouts. I mean, I'm not going to give you like a startup story that they made Facebook. No, like they are doing their own thing and they're one of the finest people I've ever met. Very sharp in what they do. They might not know like how do you run a finance, how do you do a financial calculation, but in the stuff that they do, they have insane amount of knowledge. So that's one thing that I wish that I learned earlier.
Okay. And now, last question, I guess, from my side. So you have something right now after that. Okay.
Yeah, I have a hard stop at 8:11. Yeah.
Okay. So what is the plan for maybe the next 5 years? Do you have any plan of changing something or some role or anything right now?
I don't know. I'll look. I haven't given it much thought. I decided that I'm gonna give Dubai another 2 to 3 years before thinking, because that's how I function. Like whenever I move to a new city, like the moment I've made that happen, and then I start thinking, oh, what's next? Where should I go next? So I don't know. So this time I've decided that I'm gonna take it a bit slow. I'm gonna give the city its due chance, and then see what happens. Of course, like I don't know. It's Amazon, not Amazon. Dubai, not Dubai. I don't know.
Okay.
So far, fingers crossed.
I'll just take up one question from the audience. Somebody has asked, he's confused about government job and corporate job. So can you just clarify, like, what is the difference? What is the pro con, if you have any from your side, your point of view?
Man, I mean, I can't. Just give me a moment.
Sure.
Yeah. See, I am in no position to actually like give any advice to that. And to be honest, whosoever has asked this question, that nobody will ever be able to answer that for you. And if you're looking for the easy way out, that someone tells you that what you should do, that's not the right way to do it. But however, there's way to make an informed decision. Like you convey your pros and cons and I would say be truthful to yourself. Like I can give you all the pros and cons right away. I think everyone knows that government job security, right? It is there. your career path is structured. Like you are in a kind of an autopilot mode, right? You know that, okay, after these many years, your pay scale has changed from grade 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the structure is. You know, after these many years, you will be eligible for pension. At this year, you're going to get a 2-bedroom apartment. At this year, you are eligible for this. This is going to be your HRA. You know that stuff, right? Like it is there. Corporate, you're out there. You are competing with anyone else. At the same time, sky is the limit. Like in government jobs, you might not, I don't know what kind of government job you're looking at. Let's assume it's civils. So you are tied by some rules and regulations. Your area and job scope is going to be limited. You might get a lot of opportunities. Of course, you might be helping with the nation building, and if that line of thought aligns with you, that's great. But like it's all structured over there. You know which line you are going into. Corporate is more about you will have to choose. You will have to choose and make your own life. Like no one will be here to like actually tell you like, hey, now after 4 years this is going to be you, after 10 years this is going to be you. It's on you, and which gives you the flexibility to actually go ballistic. I mean, you decide when you want to stop, but of course it comes with a lot of sleepless nights. There is uncertainty, of course. You have to be always competing, but at the same time, yeah, there's fun as well.
Okay, I think there are 2-3 questions on profile and all. I think Inside IIM will be better in answering those profile questions. So I'll just attach a link to that. I won't take much of your time. One last question. Sure. So for the CAT preparation, did you even know about Inside IIM?
I think I did hear about it. I'm sorry. Like I think I did hear about it. There were a couple of online links that were being followed. To be honest, my entire focus was on the classroom learning because I was starting from the scratch. And to be honest, my first day in my coaching institute, I think we were in like math probability statistics class. We were sitting, the professor was writing the question. I was noting the question. By the time I was finished noting, someone actually gave the answer. And I was literally thinking, and I was like, I'm done. I'm screwed. Like I won't, like these guys are like, how am I going to compete with this? So I was like really focused on my book. I don't know which book I took. I took just the book nearest stationery had, and I just went one book end to end. I actually, yeah, I didn't go. I don't know. I mean, I see. That's the thing. Like, it's great that it happened. I'm really grateful to the campus, but that's not. And to everyone whosoever is like viewing it out there, that's not the only thing. Like who you are out there as a person. Yes, of course, your campus is going to like. That's one of our director actually gave us this in our parting speech. So he told us that whatever you have achieved is phenomenal. It's amazing. And the campus is proud of you. And he told us that like now we are going to be alums of this campus. The campus will make sure that the campus name is going to take care of you for the next 5 years. But after 5 years, it's you. And he just said that I really wish that after 5 years, the campus can use your name to its own benefit.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how it is. Like the brand names, of course, they are good. There's a reason why they are there, because the selection criteria is so tough. But at the same time, it will be useless if you end up being a bad person. I mean, in terms like don't I mean, I don't have to give you like a moral science lecture. You know exactly what I'm trying to say. It's like, because out there you will be known by what kind of colleague you were. No matter what job you will go, there will be background checks. You will receive calls and emails, your previous managers, they will. So what they do in front of you is different, but like what they're going to say behind you, in early career, it won't make much difference. But the moment you're like 10, 15 years experience holders, and then you're moving companies or moving countries, those things actually matter. Your pedigree, of course, it's good to have, like, of course, like it's there, it's a prerequisite, but that won't be the thing that is going to define you.
Okay, so I think we'll end this session on this note. Thank you for joining Inside IIM to discuss the experience and journey of Anant Yadav at Amazon. We appreciate you signing in and hope you learned something new and interesting. I'll see you for the next episode. Thank you so much. Thank you, Anant.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.